This is the Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, Bo Cook from Loan Market, BTZD, the official apparel partner of the Paracave Podcast, and the Parramatta Times, the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. Troy Warner here, and it is Team List Tuesday for the final time in the NRL, but it is also round 7 in the NRLW as well, so getting down to the business end of that season as well as the business end of the NRL season as well. Now my side, the Parramatta Eels, their season is finished now. They had a great win against the Penrith Panthers last weekend, but they had the bye this weekend, so season 2023 is done and dusted. Now, if you happen to listen to the tipping podcast that is last week, you would, and if you followed the tips, you would have got a perfect round. Yes, 8 out of 8 last week. A lot of people I've been speaking to said they got 7 out of 8. They didn't tip the Parramatta Eels over the Penrith Panthers, and that's what cost them the perfect round. So lucky I stuck loyal, and I got that tip right, and a few, and all the other ones as well, and a perfect round. Second time this year that I've got one. They are very hard to get. This week is going to be even harder with a lot of big name players being rested from these top 8 sides, or sides that are just near the top 8, in order to rest them up for semi-finals that are upon us next week. Look, let's just start with the NRLW, and as I said, it is round 7 of that competition, and look, there was a lot of close games last week, but there's some cracking games this week. The Raiders and the Knights, 2 of the form teams in the competition at the moment. The Newcastle Knights, they've got on a 4-game winning streak. The Raiders lost to the Broncos last week. The Broncos hit some form last week and absolutely smashed the Raiders 40 points to 8. So they'll be looking to get back in the winner's circle. But this week they are back in Canberra, GIO Stadium. So if you can get down there, Saturday 11:05 a.m, Raiders and the Knights. And look, there's some pretty good players in this side. The Canberra Raiders, they've been one of the form teams of this competition at the moment. A new side into the competition, and they've been playing some really good footy there, led by Zahara Tamara in the 5'8" position, captain as well, and obviously Samaima Taufa at lock position as well. But Mackenzie Wiki, daughter of club legend Ruben Wiki, in the centres. I've been very impressed with her, and Ash Quinlan as well at halfback. So some good players there, but they take on the Premiers, who are coming second, as I said, 4 in a row. Tamika Upton, Shanice Parker, Jessie Southwell, her sister Hannah Southwell at the lock and captain, Nita Maynard on the interchange bench, who I have previously interviewed on the Paracave podcast, so check that one out on the, go back through the archives, it is there. Yasmin Clydesdale as well, so look, this is going to be a really interesting game. I think the Newcastle Knights will get the win and continue their winning streak, but the Canberra Raiders, they won't go down without a fight, especially at home. But I'm going to tip the Knights on this one. The next game sees the Broncos take on the Sharks. Now, the Broncos, they had, as I said, had a massive win against the Canberra Raiders last week. And look, Ali Brigginshaw, she's been named at halfback and captain. I think suffered a broken nose last week in the game, so pretty harsh hit on her to have a broken nose. But she's been named for this week in halfback. Gail Broughton was named the player of the round by the fans in that 5/8 position, really coming to light in that 5/8 position up there in the Broncos, formerly of the Parramatta Eels fullback last season, but having a good season in at 5/8. The Cronulla Sharks, well, look, they've been struggling of late. They lost to the Newcastle Knights last week. They had a big win against the Cowboys, but they haven't had really much about that. I thought this team would be going a little bit better than what they are at the moment, with some of the names they have, but they obviously haven't clicked. A new team into the competition, but they still have some quality players. Jada Taylor, Tiani Penatani, Kiana Takarengi, the sister of Brad, Emma Tonagato, Taylor Preston. So they've got some quality players there, but it just hasn't come to fruition this year at the moment. They've been playing some good footy in patches, but they haven't been able to get the wins. So a little bit like the Broncos as well. They've been playing some good footy in patches, but the win last week against the Raiders, they lost a close one on the bell to the Knights the week before. They beat the Eels and the Cowboys as well. So they've had a little bit of mix and match. Maybe last week played them into form. This one is played up at Queensland Country Bank Stadium up at Townsville at 12:50 p.m. Broncos and Sharks. Look, I'm going to go the Broncos in this one. I think they'll get the win in this one in Queensland. The third game is the Cowboys take on the Dragons. So a double-header up there in Townsville. This is the second game of the double-header. The Cowboys take on the Dragons. And look, these two sides, they're a little bit mix and match. The Cowboys have had a couple of wins in their first season of NRLW. They upset the reigning premiers 31 points to 20. The Dragons, they lost to a field goal 23-22 last week. They beat the Tigers the week before. Close loss against the Raiders. Got beaten by the Roosters and beat the Eels in round 1, I think it was. So, look, this is 9th versus 8th. So, 8th versus 9th. The Cowboys in 9th. The Dragons in 8th. I think, look, the Cowboys will get the win in this game, but keep your eye out for Tegan Berry at fullback there for the Dragons. Scored 4 tries last week, and a couple of them absolute crackers. So keep an eye out for her at fullback. Racy McGregor, the captain, at halfback, leading the team around as well. But the player to watch for the Dragons, I guess, will be Tegan Berry. But I'm going to tip the Cowboys in this one, probably simply because it is up in Townsville. The next game is the Titans versus the West Tigers. So the Titans in 3rd and the West Tigers in 7th. The Titans, they start off the year in cracking form, beating the Broncos 17-16. They beat the Sharks. They had a couple of losses against the Knights and the Roosters, so the two teams above them at the moment in the competition. And they had a 1-point win against the Dragons last week. And this game is on at 12:03 p.m. up at Cbus Super Stadium up on the Gold Coast. I think this is before the men's, the Bulldogs and the Titans as well up there on the Gold Coast. So a double header up there, so good value for fans. Look, I'm going to tip the Titans in this one against the Tigers. And the last game in the NRLW for round 7 sees the high-flying Roosters up there on the top of the table, take on the last place Eels, who got their first win of the season last week against the the Cowboys, 16 points to 12. So a confidence-boosting win there against the Cowboys to get their first win of the season. The Roosters, 48-10 winners over the Tigers, so big winners there. Look, this is going to be really difficult for the Eels, I think. The Roosters, they've got a star-studded side. Corbin Baxter, Isabel Kelly, Jessica Sergis, probably the best centre combination in the NRLW. Taryn Aiken at 5'8", Millie Boyle at prop. We all know how she goes up there. One of the great players in the NRLW. Olivia Koenig as well. So, look, this is going to be really difficult for the Eels to get this win. In saying that, they would have got a little bit of confidence about getting the win last week against the Cowboys, so congratulations on getting that win. But I'm going to tip the Roosters in this one, unfortunately. Alrighty, now to the NRL, and it is round 27, and it is the last round of the regular season. So a lot of teams are resting players in this round with an eye on the next week, the finals. So what's your thoughts about that? Let me know. As fans of the game, what are your thoughts of teams resting players? Is it a fair thing to do? Is it a not fair thing to do? Do you pay your money to go and see the best players play? Or would you rather your team be ready and pumped for round one of the finals? Anyway, I think the best players should play, but I can see why these teams are resting players, because they do have the eye on the next week. But disappointing for those fans who have travelled and season ticket holders and whatever and want to watch their players play. But look, it gives an opportunity for young players to make debuts and have some game time where they most notably wouldn't have game time. So, look, it can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. The other question is, should we have a week off by round or by week before finals for all teams? That will certainly make it interesting. The NRL have done that for the last 6 years, and it seems pretty successful for them. Now, the first game up on Thursday night at Suncorp Stadium sees the Broncos in first position take on the Melbourne Storm in fourth position. Now, will have a bearing on the top four, only in the positions that these two teams finish. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. The Storm could jump into third place. The Broncos might go down to second place. But so it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. All depends on the results as well. But the Broncos, they're missing 10 regular players. The Storm, they are resting 8 players out of their side. So some ins, some outs, some massive outs. We'll go through the Broncos first. Billy Walters, Ezra Mam, Herbie Farnworth, Katoni Staggs, who is suspended. Payne Haas and Reece Walsh are out. So Tristan Saylor comes in, son of Wendell, comes into fullback. Jesse Arthurs comes into the centres. Josh Rogers makes his debut at 5'8", so congratulations to him. Still no Adam Reynolds, obviously. Jock Madden is in the halfback, and Pat Carrigan is out as well again this week. So looks like Thomas Flegler is the captain this week, and he will be the forward leader of this side with no Payne Haas this week. For the Melbourne Storm, well, number 1 is Ryan Pappenhausen. So he made his NRL debut, his comeback after 400 odd days out of the game due to injury. Last weekend he got 19 minutes off the bench. So he is back at fullback. So he is going to get some more quality game time, that's for sure. Nick Meaney is one of those 8 players being rested. Justin Olam comes back into the centres, into the side there. An unusual, different halves pairing for the Melbourne Storm for what we are used to be seeing, with Jerome Hughes injured and likely, hopefully, for the Melbourne Storm back next week, round 1 of the finals. So his place is taken by Tyron Wishart, who has played a little bit of first grade here, there and everywhere for the Melbourne Storm. Jaden Nikorima is his halves partner as well. So obviously Jerome Hughes and Cameron Munster are out. Christian Welsh, Harry Grant, Marion Seve, Big Nelson, Nick Meaney, Tom Eisenhuth, Trent Larero, Tui Kamakamitha and Xavier Coates are all being rested this weekend. Tarek Sims comes into the prop position. Tepai Marawa comes into the other prop position. Bronson Garlick gets a start at hooker as well. So look, this is a real sort of toss of the coin. The Melbourne Storm have the advantage over the Brisbane Broncos, winning many games against them. Most notably last season, a massive win to the Storm, 60 points to 12. A little bit closer this year, the first time the two teams met, 24-16 to the Storm. But the Broncos, I think they're going for about 8 or 9 in a row. So they're certainly in form. The Storm, they had that hiccup against the Panthers, but they've beaten the Raiders, Dragons and Titans since. Look, as I said, it's a bit of a toss of the coin, I think. The Broncos, they've got the minor premiership to play for. If they win this game, they win the $200,000 and the JJ Gilton and Shield for being minor premiers. If they lose this game and the Panthers win, then they will finish in second spot and play the Warriors. If they win this game, they may play, or they will play the Melbourne Storm next week, first week of the finals in Brisbane. So, look, I'm going to tip the Broncos in this one. I think they've got a lot of confidence about them, although we do see that next man up mentality for the Melbourne Storm in regular occasions. But look, I'm going to go the Broncos in this one. They've got a lot to play for, trying to win that minor premiership. But it's going to be very interesting to see how this one pans out. But I'm going to go the Broncos simply because it's at Suncorp Stadium, even though the Melbourne Storm have a great record up there. The first game on Friday night at 4 Pines Park, or Brookvale Oval for the old traditionalists, sees the Sea Eagles take on the West Tigers. Now, these two sides last week, the Sea Eagles had a big win against the Bulldogs. Lots of points scored there, 42 points to 24. The Tigers got done by the Roosters, 32 points to 8. So, look, 1 start winner, 1 start loser. Now, congratulations to Jake Travojevic for playing his 200th, or this will be his 200th NRL game. So, congratulations to Jake, one of the good fellas of rugby league, that's for sure. One of the nice guys. So, congratulations to him for that one. Look, I think this is going to be a pretty one-sided affair. I think there's a lot of players out for the Tigers, as you could expect. John Bateman, Stefano Utukumanu is out. So, look, I think Manly, I think they're gonna really turn it on in Jake's 200th here at Brookvale Oval. They've got they're relatively the same side that played last week against the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. So look, I'm going to just stick with Manly to win this one, and I think they'll win 13 plus in that game as well. Now, the next game, this is a cracker. The Rabbitohs versus the Roosters. The loser gone for season 2023. The winner will just scrape into the top 8. So, very crucial game for both sides. This is played at Accor Stadium in Sydney. South Sydney's home ground. What sort of a crowd do you think we can get for this game? 30,000, 40,000? Who knows? But we certainly saw it last year. I think it was in the last round last year. Simbin Sunday it was called. Very interesting game in that one. Now there's one major out for each side, and of course that is Latrell Mitchell for the South Sydney Rabbitohs, suspended, and Jared Warrior-Hargreaves, he's suspended as well. So two big outs there, one for each side. Who is the biggest out for? Who do you think is the biggest out? What will make the difference in this game? Is it Latrell being out for the Rabbitohs? Is it Jared being out for the Roosters? The Roosters, they welcome back James Tedesco from concussion protocols back there at fullback. They had a good win last week against the Tigers. Blake Taff, he comes into the fullback role. He's done the job there before for Latrell Mitchell, and of course they're coming off a bye last week as well. A lot of dramas going on at South Sydney. Won't go into that one too much because we've all heard those dramas. The Book of Feuds is open up again this week. Two traditional rivals. Look, this is just going to be a massive game, a big game. As I said before, the loser gone, the winner plays finals. Who is the biggest out for both those players that are out? Who is going to make the biggest difference? Wow, how do we tip this game? Look, I think I'm going to go the Roosters, and I'm only going to go the Roosters in this game because they are in form at the moment. They've won the last 4 against the Tigers, Eels, Dolphins and Sea Eagles. So no top 8 opponent there. The Rabbitohs, they had that loss against the Newcastle Knights. They beat the Dragons. They lost to the Sharks. They beat the Tigers, and they lost to the Broncos. So they've had an up and down year. They were first after about 12 weeks, I think, of the competition, and sort of had a bit of a downhill. So I think I'm going to go the Roosters in this game. I think Latrell is a big out for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. I think Jared is a big out for the Roosters, but not as much as Latrell is for the Rabbitohs. So I'm going to go the Roosters. They're in form at the moment. I'm going to go the Roosters in that one. The Dolphins take on the Warriors at Suncorp Stadium in the Dolphins' last home game for the year. And look, the Warriors, they've got a few players out. Obviously, they can finish in the top 4, so it will be probably 3rd position anyway. So, Adam Fanua-Blake, Chance Nickel-Clockstar, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, the try-scoring machine, Luke Metcalf, who's injured, Sean Johnson, Tohu Harris, who's injured as well, and Wade Egan are out. So they've got a number of new players in their side. Tamari Martin comes back into the 5'8 spot. Ronald Volkman goes into the halfback spot. Dylan Walker captains the side at lock. For the Dolphins, they look like a pretty much full strength side. They've had a pretty good year this year. They won't be too happy where they're sitting on the ladder, but they've had some great wins, some good wins, some close losses. They found it tough during the Origin period, also with injuries and suspensions as well. So they'll be happy with their season. They would have liked to have been a little bit higher up on the ladder. This will be a good test for the Warriors, just to see how their sort of second string side can go against quality opposition. I'm going to I'm going to go an upset here. This is going to be a real hard game to tip, actually, because I don't know too much about the second string Warriors side. And the Warriors fans out there, they won't like me saying this, but I'm going to go the Dolphins in this game, in the last game of their last game of the year. And the Warriors, they'll have an eye. They've got an eye on the finals. They're in the top 4. I'm going to go the Dolphins in that one as a bit of an upset. Saturday, the second game at Bluebet Stadium in Penrith sees the second place Panthers take on the Cowboys. Dylan Edwards is back. Taruva is back. Scott Sorensen is back. Obviously, Jerome Luai, the big out for them with that dislocated shoulder. So, a big out for them. Jack Cogger goes into that 5/8 role. We've seen him do the job previously. Still no Mitch Kenny. He is not available. So, look, it's pretty much both teams are full strength. So this will be the quality game of the weekend, I think, other than the Roosters and the Rabbitohs. But this game's got a lot of meaning as well. The Cowboys are going to have to win to have any chance of making that top 8. I don't know. Let's have a look. 36-73. Look, if the Roosters win this game against the Rabbitohs, they will go to 32 points. And if the Cowboys if they beat the Panthers, they'll go to 32 points. But the Cowboys for and against is superior to the Roosters. So the Cowboys will know what they have to do on Saturday night. They'll know on Friday night what they need to do. So if the Rabbitohs win, then there'll be no chance for the Cowboys to make the top 8. So look, the Cowboys, they've had a bit of a different year this year. They made the prelim final last year. They lost to the Eels, and then they've had four straight wins. Sorry, this is the Panthers. They lost to the Eels last week, and they had 4 straight wins in a row there. The Cowboys had a win against the Dolphins last week, then a few losses, and they beat the Eels as well. So, look, I'm going to go the Panthers in this one. I think the Panthers, look, even though they won't be eyeing off a minor premiership, they will still probably want to win that. But again, they will know the result of the Thursday night game anyway. So there still may be a few little changes for the Panthers side. You never know. But good form to get in there. Rest up before the finals week 1. So, look, this is going to be an interesting game. I'm going to tip the Panthers only because it's at home and they've got a relatively full-strength side. Dragons and Knights on Saturday night, 7:35 p.m. Look, we know the Knights have already secured a home final, which is great for the area of Newcastle. The Dragons have had a disappointing year, 16th on the table. Jack DeBellin is back for them after serving his suspension. For the big out for Newcastle is Kalen Ponga. Lachlan Miller takes his spot. I think that's a good swap there. Obviously, with Kalen out injured, he will be back for the first week of the finals, no doubt. Adam Clune is still named at halfback there. He's been doing a great job at halfback the last couple of weeks, while Jackson Hastings has been out. So, great. He's been playing some really good footy there and a pretty handy replacement. give Jackson another week off, I reckon. Just get him pumped and ready for the finals. The Dragons, look, they're just playing for pride in this game. The Newcastle Knights, as I said, have already secured a home final. They're resting Dane Gagai. Kalen Ponga's out injured. Phoenix Crossland, Tyson Frizzell as well. So, look, I think Newcastle can still get the win in this game. This game's played at Cogra Oval, Netstrata Jubilee Stadium, but I think the Newcastle Knights, they're on a roll. I think they can get the win. Look, they won't be too disappointed if the Newcastle Knights, they won't be too disappointed if they do lose this game, because they've won 8 in a row, I think, now. So it'll be something like 12 or 13 to win the comp in a row, so that's a massive ask. Oh, look, I should go back and say for the Sea Eagles West Tigers game, congratulations to Belinda Sharp as well, one of 2 female referees this week, leading the solo referees in a game. So Belinda Sharp, she is refereeing the Manly Tigers game. So congratulations to her, first female to officiate a game solo, obviously with the one referees these days. And this next game, the first game at Seabus Super Stadium after the NRLW game there, sees the Titans take on the Bulldogs. And in this game, Casey Badger is going to be the on-field referee for that one. So congratulations to Casey, congratulations to Belinda Sharp, first female solo referees to a men's first grade game. So congratulations on those appointments. Look, the Bulldogs, they let in 42 points last week. What can you say about them? I'm not too sure. The Titans, they went down to the Melbourne Storm, but they showed a little bit of fight down there in Melbourne. This could be another score like the Manly Bulldogs game last week, 42-24. So I think there could be a lot of points in this game. I'm just going to go to the Gold Coast Titans in this one. There's not really much to say about this game. A lot of points scored in this game, and the Titans will get the win. And to round off the competition regular, sees the Cronulla Sharks take on the 7th place Raiders as well. So now, whilst I'm recording this now, just before the news broke, just before recording this, the news broke that Corey Horsburgh has been suspended for 4 weeks for a shoulder charge. So he was named at 4 o'clock this afternoon, but he won't be playing. So his replacement will be named in the coming days. But the big in for Cronulla is Nico Hines is back after that quad complaint. So he is back into that halfback position. Look, it's Father's Day on Sunday, so happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there on Sunday. Hope you have a great day. Father's Day down there at Shark Park. Wade Graham is playing his last home game. His last home game at Shark Park for Cronulla. He announced his retirement a few weeks ago now. So every game from now on, he will be one of his last. So depending on how far Cronulla can go, he will play 300 games if the Cronulla Sharks can make the grand final. So he's going to fall a little bit short in that, I think, but stranger things have happened. But congratulations to Wade on a great career. So his last home game at Shark Park. So a special one for him. Look, Jamal Fogarty, he's named a bit of a facial injury last week. He will play. Big loss for the Canberra Raiders is Josh Papali'i. I think it was a bicep injury. I think he will need surgery and gone for about 4 to 5 months, I think. So big loss for them, and obviously Corey Horsburgh suspended as well. So big loss for the Raiders there. I think the way that the Cronulla Sharks have turned it around the last few weeks, I think despite that loss against Newcastle, I think they'll get the win here, and they'll get a home final week 1 of the finals. So I think they'll get a win in this one over the Raiders, who, if depending on results, they may see themselves slip out of the top 8. So they got the highest, the worst differential in the top 8, minus 119. So if the Cowboys and Roosters win and the Raiders lose, they may find themselves out of the top 8. So a massive game for the Raiders. So interesting one there. That's a great game to watch on Sunday. And as I said, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there on Sunday. So I'm going to tip the Sharks in that one. And so just recapping what will be a interesting round of NRL football, I'm going to go the Broncos, the Sea Eagles, the Roosters, the Dolphins, the Panthers, the Newcastle Knights, the Gold Coast Titans, and the Cronulla Sharks. So if you want to follow those tips, who knows what you'll go. I'm hoping for another perfect round, but I think a pass mark in this one might be about 5 out of 8, considering all the changes, chopping and changing of these teams. So enjoy your footy this week, and next week we get down to the business end of the season, the finals, the NRL finals, September football, the best sort of football you can have. So enjoy your footy this week. I hope if your team is still in the race for the finals or is in the finals, good luck this week. But if your team is in the race for the finals, good luck. And hopefully your team gets a win this weekend. Enjoy your footy. As I said before, happy Father's Day to all those fathers out there on Sunday. Thank you very much for listening to the Parrot Cave podcast. Stay tuned later this week as well for a interview-based style podcast with a former Gold Coast Titan and Parramatta Eels player, Mr. Keegan Hipgrave. So stay tuned for that one. Thank you very much for listening. Enjoy your footy. Go Para, even though they're not playing, even though their season's finished. Go Para. But I might jump on the Warriors bandwagon now. There you go. There's a little bit of a tip. Thank you very much. Enjoy.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Parrot Cave Podcast. See you next time.